Now, I'm guessing you're watching this video because one of four things are troubling you. Your man's career path has been more of a stroll than a climb. In your opinion, he's either too discouraged or too comfortable with the status quo. He's bypassed one too many opportunities. Or he's one of those men who just can't or won't keep a job. If you're on any of those ships, I'm guessing you still love your guy, but you're worried about losing respect for him. And I'm also guessing that you really love your kids and you don't want them to suffer. So what? You're working? Because what else can you do? Well, a lot actually. And I'm here today to get you started thinking a little more hopefully, a little more proactively by analyzing the why behind four conditions that individually or together or in any combination can cause your guy to be stuck, stalemated, or rudderless.
You and me, we could be on top of the world.
We all want to think of our husband as that strong, sure captain, that commanding presence who actually takes on the perils and the risks of family and life and career all in his stride, who actually relishes the challenge of it all, face to the wind. At least that's what I thought when I was a new bride. That's what I wanted as a new wife and what I expected from my husband. But when I realized that he felt that way, all right, but only on occasion, only on the really good days, those really rare days when everything was going his way. Otherwise, on most of the other days, he felt like he was behind the wheel of his ship, like he's just grappling with that wheel of his ship, trying to steer it through all kinds of mayhem, feeling threatened, feeling pressured, feeling out of control, and yes, scared to death. And when I realized that, I panicked because I thought he was steering us straight into the rocks. And so I filed for divorce. And you know what? I was right. I was right about the fact that a man's insecurities can slow down or waylay or even sink his desire and ability to provide adequately for the family. But I was wrong to think that the only thing I could do about it was divorce him. Let's talk about those four conditions that may make a man unmotivated or at least appear unmotivated and what you can do about it. Condition 1, he hasn't left the dock. When a man marries, he surrenders his independence, right? And he commits to some really hefty responsibilities, as well as taking on your very high expectations of him. And altogether, that makes for quite a checklist, especially for a guy who most likely has only had to navigate his little dinghy, his boat with a crew of one before. So considering his immaturity, his inexperience, it's pretty amazing that he even committed to taking on that voyage at all. It's also pretty impressive that men in general grow into that checklist, into being able to check off all the boxes. But every once in a while, I do hear from a distressed wife about a husband who has never left the dock because he's never developed the levels of self-discipline and self-respect that are necessary to getting and keeping gainful employment. And even if he is employed, he probably doesn't have the discipline, again, that is necessary to budgeting the family's money so that it benefits the family. So overall, he just wants, this kind of guy, he just wants his wife to take the wheel, run the galley, repair the sails, chart the course, all by herself. And she's exhausted. What's really going on? Well, the male drive to be brave and to win is just everywhere. It's in every movie, it's in every story, every fable. But what we don't talk about, or what isn't shown very often, is how those stereotypical male drives can make emerging guys feel, right? Because proving yourself involves risk. Any contest is potentially hazardous to the ego because failure is a real and present danger. And guys are absolutely terrified of failure. Your guy may think he's safe as long as he's in the calm, shallow water of the harbor. But the reality is he can't stay there forever, and you know it, and you know that he's more like on a narrow, sandy shoal. And because you know that, because you know the reality, you are positioned better than anyone else, really, to help him face his fear and to do it anyway, to grow up, to believe in himself. A wife with the right know-how can help or get the help that her husband needs to gain the confidence to cast off and launch into the world. Condition 2, he's stuck in the doldrums. Obviously, not every guy's snoozing in his recliner while his wife is doing all the cooking and the cleaning and trying to figure out how to pay the bills. Most men, in my experience, are actually highly motivated to go out and try and find some way to help support the family, especially during tough times, and not to leave his wife to do it alone. But there are guys who don't dig in like that. These are the guys, simply put, who have given up on life. They see themselves as losers. They may have failed in their education or failed in their career aspirations. Things didn't turn out the way they thought they would. And so they've just kind of given up on finding a good job. Now, some guys in this group will get a job. They will work, but far below their potential, just to keep from feeling like a failure again. And that's better than nothing. But sooner or later, the gap between their income and the bills starts to show, and that just leads to a financial failure sooner or later, unless things change. What's really going on? A vicious cycle. He tells himself that he's failed, right? He's failed at having a good job, which translates in his mind that he has failed her. He's failed the family, which translates in his mind that he is a complete failure, both at work and at home. He's just failed across the board, which is incredibly, as you can guess, unmotivating. Crushed self-image just causes him to walk away from responsibilities altogether. It's double jeopardy now if his wife just gets so used to living in that cycle or so afraid of setting it off that she lives complicitly with that kind of dysfunction, just sitting in the doldrums with him month after month, year after year, until the disrespect and bitterness just build up and she explodes in a rage or leaves him. It doesn't have to be that way. She doesn't have to live in the doldrums or in that kind of dysfunction. She can get the help and the self-education that she needs in order to get those fresh wins for herself and then hopefully for him as well. Condition number 3, he doesn't have a compass or a voyage plan. It's easy to see how being stuck in the doldrums can be so devastating to a guy if you understand this next principle. In order to thrive, that is to bust out and accelerate in character development and that sense of accomplishment that is so necessary to gaining the respect that he craves. So in order to thrive that way, a man needs a quest. Now, that quest can vary from man to man and from stage to stage, but ever since boyhood, he has innately cast himself as the protagonist on that classical hero's journey, that personal journey of exertion and competition and conquest. The male performance drive is such a biological imperative. You can see it being played out in every corner of the globe, every era of history, in every field of human endeavor or achievement. Wait a minute, I hear you saying. Wait a minute. My guy, the hero, he's sitting on the couch right now in his t-shirt watching SportsCenter, chomping on Cheetos. Well, that may be, but that doesn't mean that Odysseus isn't alive and well in there. He may be one of those guys who appears to be unmotivated, but is really actually far from being a loser or a genuine moocher. It could be that he just never learned which career path to take. So he took or he takes the first job available, just going with whatever wave or current comes along. What's really going on? He doesn't have a compass. He doesn't have a voyage plan. He doesn't have a map. He doesn't have a quest. He may go on feeling stuck and unmotivated for years because he's afraid of failing at a career change. And he's loath to admit that he doesn't really know what he's doing with his life and that he needs help. He may actually reject or turn down that good help, that good advice that maybe you or others have tried to give him because he so desperately wants to appear that he's in control. So he'll just go on working and working and just being stuck forever at that dead end, never really feeling proud of himself, never really able to get ahead. But it doesn't have to be that way. He doesn't have to stay stuck forever. It may very well be that the ultimate destination, that map, needs your involvement, that it's going to take the two of you and maybe some help from some mentors to actually piece together what he's made of and what he's meant to do in this world. That compass, that map, that voyage plan that he needs to get his voyage or his quest underway. Condition number 4. He's fighting adverse wind, weather, and seas. The quest will ideally accelerate as it progresses, propelled by tension and strain, just like a sailing ship is propelled by wind stress. Think of the young man as being like an arrow in a bow and looking for direction and all taut, ready to be released. And the slightly older man like the arrow that's just been released. And then the mature man being that arrow arching through the air. Of course, if the quest is the ultimate adventure for a man, then the ultimate outcome of the ultimate adventure is a decisive victory. If he completes the quest in this life, he's going to feel so good. He's going to live and die a happy man. But if that quest is involuntarily interrupted or aborted, maybe because of his miscalculation or some other external or internal factor, then there's a really good chance that he will live and maybe die a very unhappy man, maybe even sick, angry, corrupted, feeling broken. We all know examples. What's really going on? Well, what appears as a lack of motivation maybe due just to his time of life, like midlife, or to a stage or a snag in his career. A bad wind is what the sailors call it, and it can drive him off course. Or an unexpected monster wave can capsize his ship altogether. He is probably in the wheelhouse, overwhelmed, struggling, trying in real time to figure out how to handle the chop, the swell, the waves. And if he is too proud a skipper to send out a distress signal, then he may be heading straight for the rocks. Unless he has a very smart wife who has the know-how needed to save that ship, to right the course, to plot a new tact. There. Did you notice that in all 4 conditions, I emphasized how much can change with the involvement of a partner, a woman, a wife? Now, there's no question that in order for a man to be a man, he has to take responsibility for steering his own ship and become proactive in taking on his fair share of family care. But even if he is an experienced skipper, the wind doesn't blow with uniform strength all the time. And there could very well be at any point in his life doldrums and storms and lost compasses. And that's when thrust from behind and a steady hand on the tiller can make all the difference. How are you going to do that? You've probably tried many ways to get that unmotivated husband of yours motivated, to get him back on track, and yet nothing has worked. The good news is there can be a rebirth. There can be a rebuilding of you and your man and your marriage with the right education, support, and mentorship. Fresh wind, furled sails, fair weather. That is what we help you create and develop in the Wife Savers course and community. The link is in the description box to learn lots more about that. And follow the link in the description box to get in on my free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. As always, it is just my privilege and joy to be your wife saver. See you next time.